So we've cooked over live wood, we've cooked over charcoal, we've cooked meat, and we've cooked vegetables. But I want to take just a second to talk about charcoal. Now, I brought some charcoal out here just so you can have a little peek at it. This is a piece of mesquite charcoal. It's not lit yet, so you don't have to worry about me burning myself. But really what you're seeing here is a piece of wood that first is burnt, but while it's burning, they damp the fire down. They rob the fire of almost all the oxygen. Traditionally, it's done by mounding dirt over the burning wood. And what happens is the only thing that will burn is the most volatile compounds, the things that caused flame when we were burning those logs. So little by little, those volatile compounds leave, and what we're left with is carbon or charcoal that is, at the end of the day, kind of a concentrated fuel source. It's much smaller than the original log, and it burns hotter and cleaner. That's the idea. So this is sort of an efficiency fuel, if you will. Now, a briquette is not the log itself, but it's charcoal that is bound together into a specific shape, and so there's likely binders and additives there. This is simply the log with the most volatile compounds burnt away. Now, I'm going to take this and put it right onto this fire, and this one as well, and likely very quickly what you're going to hear is what I can hear already, which is a snapping and a popping. That is typical of mesquite charcoal, lump charcoal, and that's what I just put on there, and that's what I showed you. That snapping and popping is indicative of that charcoal. Once it has ashed over, I can guarantee you, you'll have a hot fire, one, a clean fire with no off flavors, and it will last for a relatively long time. One word of caution. You can hear that snapping and popping. Oftentimes, that charcoal will throw a spark or two. So another safety issue is leaving a grill unattended for any length of time. It may be that while you're cooking, you're right there, but once the food hits the table and you have a glass of wine in your hand, don't forget to come back over here periodically and just make sure that everything is safe. A cautionary tale. We had a piece of charcoal that threw a spark into the bag of charcoal that was next to the grill, and that bag of charcoal caught fire. So while it doesn't seem like it can happen, it does happen, and it burns restaurants down. Keep your charcoal stored away from the grill and keep the area around your grill clear. All right, so with that little preamble, let's talk about what we're going to cook today. As I said, we've cooked vegetables, we've cooked meat. I want you to stop thinking of this as a grill and think of it for a second as just a big, expensive toaster. We're going to make some crostini and some bruschetta. And to get started, what we need to do is make sure the grill is nice and clean. So the brush comes out, and we brush away any food that is burnt onto the grill. And then, having done that, I'm going to add a little bit of oil to this bowl, and we will mop that grill clean with an oiled rag. And as you already know, this will take all the little bits and pieces of soot and capture them. Okay, so I'm going to start with this bread right here. I'm going to put it onto the grill in an area that is not too hot. So I'm going to think that right here might work well for us. What we're going to make first is something called pan catalan, or Catalan bread. What they do in Catalonia is they grill the bread just the way we're seeing it here. And once the bread is grilled, it's golden, it's toasted in effect, they're going to take it from the grill and put a very special topping on. And I don't want to tip my hand just yet and tell you what that is. As you're doing this work, what I'm going to recommend to you is that you stay engaged. You evaluate the heat of the fire. You are part of this game. So Periodically turn this over and see how it's progressing. Already a slight bit of browning there. That's a good sign. And I know that the browning has begun, and so I don't want to wander away. You can use the food to help you understand how hot the fire is. The thing I love about grilling is that I need to be present. I need to create the heat source and regulate the heat source and evaluate the heat source in an ongoing way. In effect, this grill is no different from me. We're both part of the cooking process. All right, there is some beautiful browned bread right there. If I leave it for a minute too long, it will burn. I take it off a minute too early, it's not quite where I need it to be. All right, take a look. Both sides nice and golden brown. So I'm going to pull those off and bring them over here to my cutting board. And what they do in Catalonia to begin with is they create garlic bread by taking a clove of garlic and the coarse surface of this toasted bread and just bringing the two of those things together. Just rub a little bit of garlic into the bread. That is ingenious enough, but it gets better. They reach for the ripest tomato that they can find and slice it in half. And then they begin this process of using this bread as a grater and just rub this ripe tomato right into the bread. Periodically give it a squeeze so that the seeds and the juice come out. And little by little, what you'll notice is that the tomato disappears into the surface of the bread and the surface of the bread begins to soften. This is a great little trick for tomatoes that are actually a little bit overripe. And this time of the year, we've got plenty of them, believe me. All right, next, we're going to anoint this with a little bit of olive oil. And maybe I'll just brush the olive oil on. The better the olive oil can be, the better this toast will be. And a simple little sprinkling of salt, and this is done. Or if you like the idea, you can take some Spanish ham. This is Serrano ham, and just mound a little bit of the Serrano ham right on top. I think, again, a couple of little drops of olive oil are not too much. Salt again. And then let me put just a little bit of coarsely chopped parsley on the top. And that is pan catalan. 1, 2, 3. Now, if you had a little bit of extra tomato that you wanted to include so that it could tell a little bit of the story, you know, you could just stack this off to the edges. But that is a done deal. I'm going to make another bruschetta. Sometimes you'll hear crostini used to describe what we're doing here. Crostini typically are a little bit crusty, a little bit thinner and cooked a little bit further, and bruschetta tend to be thicker. And I'm going to go back to that same part of the grill because I had such great luck earlier. And we'll start to toast that bread. Now, what we're going to put on top of this particular bruschetta is seafood. And I've got the seafood right in here. It's calamari and it's shrimp, and it's marinated with fennel seed that have been ground up, lemon zest, pepper flakes, and garlic. Here is a little bit of calamari, and here a little bit of shrimp, just in the event that you're curious. The calamari, I just cut straight into rings. I'm sure you can even buy it that way. And the shrimp, typically I cut them in half lengthwise, and then I cut them in half again, and that's that. So this seafood is marinated. I didn't put any lemon in here. I put lemon zest, but no lemon. Lemon juice would cook this, and I don't want that to happen. So I want it to stay loose. And the nice thing about this marinade is I put a lot of olive oil in there so that if I were to take this and just drop it into a hot cast iron pan, it would begin to cook just like that. And so that's just what I'm going to do. Now, the toasts are coming along nicely. We've got some nice color on there. This seafood is cut so small, it will cook very, very quickly. Let me move it over so it's easier for you to see. I'm looking for the shrimp to turn pink and the calamari to firm up. If you like the idea of lemon on here, we can always add lemon after the fact, but if we add it too soon and it cooks that protein and makes it mushy, that's not what we want at all. So this dish is going to have bread on the bottom and seafood on top, and at the interface between those two components, I want to put a bean puree. I might make a white bean puree, but I can guarantee you if you go to the store, you will find white bean hummus or even hummus or spicy hummus. Sounds like a great idea, but we want to have sort of a spread on here, something that lends a little bit of body to this. So the bread is very, very close. The seafood is just beginning to firm up and turn color. I'm going to season this with salt. I put pepper flakes on there already, so it doesn't need any more heat. I think our bread is ready to come off the grill. Some people maintain a portion of the grill where it's cool, or if not cool, just warm. I could leave these things over here for a long time without them browning any further, but we're ready to move ahead with this preparation. Now, if you look at this seafood, I would say it is 95% cooked. So to finish it, I want to add some tomato. I don't want the tomato to fall apart, so I've diced it up, but I'm going to pull this off the heat as soon as the tomato is added. I've seasoned it with salt, but a little bit of lemon juice sounds great to me. And then finally, to brighten it up a little bit, some parsley. This smells great. I'm going to put that on the cool part of the grill or warm part of the grill just to stay hot. And let's build this bruschetta together. 1, 2, 3 pieces of bread. Here is the white bean puree that I was referencing earlier. And I'm going to suggest that we put a dollop on and just spread it out. The more you put on, likely the better it'll taste, but it reaches a point where it gets difficult to eat, so don't be too enthusiastic. Next, we're going to put some seafood right onto the top of that bean puree. Shrimp and calamari. And this I would mound on generously. Neither of these two seafoods, calamari or shrimp, benefit from overcooking. So this is a great little technique for serving it when it's just perfect. This plate looks like it'll do nicely. And 1, 2, and 3. We don't want to leave any of this goodness behind. Maybe just a little bit more chopped parsley. And now that it's on the plate, if you have any of these delicious juices in the bottom of the pan, I would say now's the time to make sure to spoon them over the top because the bread will absorb it. This is garlic and fennel, it's lemon juice. So there you have it, bruschetta with white bean puree and delicious sautéed shellfish. And here, pan catalan, 2 different bruschetta, both of them from the grill. Now let's combine two of my favorite things, grilling and pizza. I can't imagine anything much better. One of the secrets of a really good pizza is a hot pizza oven. And while I don't have a hot pizza oven, I do have a really hot grill here. And so we're going to make sort of a hybrid pizza, if you will, that begins with pizza dough. Now, you can go to the store and buy it, take it out of the freezer section and take it home, pop it in your fridge the day before you need it, or you can make the dough yourself, and I'm going to show you how. I have a food processor here with a measured amount of flour, and into that I'm going to sprinkle instant yeast. This is the yeast that does not need to be proofed ahead. You just add it to the mixture. I've got a measured amount of water. And I want to make sure not to put salt right on top of the yeast or oil. Oil will encapsulate the yeast. Salt is actually a disciplinarian for yeast. They don't like one another very much. So we're going to pulse this once or twice just to mix the yeast in there. And now I can add the salt. Salt is important, as I said. It controls yeast a little bit, but it also assists in the development of the dough. And we'll continue to pulse here. And in short order, what you should notice is that the dough is going to begin the process of forming a ball in the food processor. It doesn't take long, probably a minute or so. We're just about there right now, and that's what it should look like. It should roll around as a ball. And what I want to do before I take it out is add the oil to this. And we'll let that coat the dough. All right, start to finish, about a minute and a half. So I'm going to put this aside. And we'll take the dough out. Just a little bit of flour on the board. And make sure you don't cut yourself with the blade. Some food processors have a special blade for making dough, which is a nice idea if you have it. It's a dull plastic blade. Anyhow, let's take a look at this dough quickly. I'm going to knead it once or twice. Work that oil right into the dough. But already the dough is developed. The gluten is developed, and it's a nice supple dough. What I want to do is take it and put it into a bowl with a little bit of oil to coat it. And this needs to rise. And I would let it rise until it's doubled, certainly, but it'll take about an hour and a half. When it's doubled, what you should do is recognize that the yeast has eaten the sugars or starches that have been turned into sugars and given off carbon dioxide. It's grown, it's eaten all the food close by. Yeast has no legs, so to redistribute the food, you punch the dough down. So once it's doubled in size, you punch it down, and from that point forward, you are ready to make pizza. So take a look at what I've got here. This is the dough that has been made. It rose. I punched it down. I rounded it into small pieces. This is about 5.5 ounces or so. And if you poke it, what you'll notice is that the indentation sort of stays there. This is ready to be used. So flour on my board, and we're going to roll this out using a rolling pin. If it sticks, make sure you add a little more flour and keep moving it so that you don't inadvertently allow it to stick to the board. Now, when you roll from the center to the outside. You don't roll back and forth, because if you do, in effect, what you're doing is kneading the dough more. So from the center to the outside, and you want to roll this down until it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. I can smell the yeastiness of this dough as I'm working it. The reason that I'm rolling it so thin is that the heat of the fire is relatively hot, and any thicker and it might burn. All right, so this dough is about 1/8 of an inch thick. You can put it over the back of your hands and just stretch it a little bit more, the back of your hands with your fingers extended. And what I want to do is bring this right over to the grill, and then I'm going to do it here first so you can see it. I'm going to lay the back end on the grill and then just slip my hands out. Okay? So that's the process. It's going to happen kind of quickly, so be ready for it. We come over to the grill and we lay it down. Okay, now that won't take much more than about 1.5 minutes to cook on the first side. The grill is moderate to hot, and you'll see some signs of activity here fairly quickly. You can just see where it's touching the bars, it's starting to blister a little bit. That's a good sign. That took maybe 5 or 8 seconds. You may discover that it blisters and you get these big bubbles, almost like you're making a pita bread. If that happens, I want you to pop that bubble just so that it falls back on itself. We can monitor its progress this way too. If I lift it up, you can see no browning yet. So I want to get some color on the first side of this dough before I flip it over. When you think about it, this is flour and water and yeast right now with a little bit of salt mixed in. What really gives bread its flavor is the color of the crust, or in the case of pizza, the little bit of char that you get on the edge of the dough. So I'm starting to get a little color. Let me show you here. That pale golden is not enough. I want it to be even to the point of having a little bit of char. If you discover that your fire is not quite hot enough, you can go in and manipulate the coals, knock the ashes off. That allows new air to get to the fire, and you get a little flush of heat. And that heat translates into faster browning. Okay, let's flip this over. There you can see we've got some nice deep browning. Because this has been cooking for a while already on the grill, it is already hot. So the second side will cook in about half the time. If side 1 was 1.5 minutes, side 2 is about 45 seconds. So we have to get cracking. I'm going to go ahead and put the tapenade onto this. Just a little spoonful, and spread it out as though this were the sauce on your pizza. I choose flavoring agents that are full flavored. So pesto comes to mind, and tapenade comes to mind. And if it's a tomato sauce, it might be made with sun-dried tomatoes instead of whole tomatoes. And then over here, I've put together a little salad of arugula, mozzarella, and cherry tomatoes. And I'm going to put some red wine vinaigrette on that. And salt and pepper. And that salad is ready to go. Let's just toss it very, very quickly. Now, I want to take a look at the second side. All right, so we've got some browning on the second side. I'm going to pull this off right onto the plate. The dough is cooked all the way through. If you're curious about it, it's an easy thing to tear a little bit from the edge. And now we're going to add our salad right on top of this bread. If you're the kind of person that can't have a pizza without ooey-gooey melted cheese, then what you can consider doing is grating a little bit of cheese over the bread as it cooks on the second side. And some Parmesan cheese over the top, and this pizza is a done deal. So there you have it, a grilled pizza with tapenade, arugula salad, fresh mozzarella, cherry tomatoes, and just a sprinkling of Parmesan. So I've rolled out a second pizza dough. It's been on the grill. I flipped it over. This time I rubbed it with hummus. I just happened to have some in the fridge. And if we take a look underneath, I think we'll probably notice that it's starting to brown already. So off it comes. And here on the cutting board, I have a Greek salad. Feta, olives, tomatoes, capers, and cucumbers. I'm going to put just a few greens in here as well. Arugula, and that salad is going to make its way on top of this pizza. So this one more of a Mediterranean approach, or more specifically, kind of a Greek pizza. So grilled bread with hummus, Greek salad on top. All right, this time we're going to put some pesto on top, and I want to make a pizza that you might think of as a breakfast pizza. If you like ham and eggs, I'm going to put a topping of ham and eggs, and because I've got a green sauce, let's amend that and call it green eggs and ham. Okay, you can see nice browning on the back. We'll put that right onto the plate. And here, with this arugula salad, I'm going to add some scrambled eggs into this salad. I'm going to take some prosciutto and just tear it into shreds and add that to the salad as well. We'll spoon on just a little bit of vinaigrette. I'm going to keep it light because you can think of this pesto as a little bit of a dressing as well. And we'll toss it together. Salt and pepper. And I think all of the components of this should show. So make sure you can see the ham, you can see the eggs, and maybe even a little bit of the pesto can peek out from below. A little dusting of Parmesan cheese. And there's a breakfast pizza, green eggs and ham, side by side with a Greek pizza and one that could have easily come from the south of France. So let's say you have a few dying embers in the barbecue or the grill, and you have a little bit of a sweet tooth. I'm going to share one last little treat with you. I've got some leftover bread from the meal, and I'm going to put it right onto the grill, and I'm going to toast it. Now in Spain, this is a treat that they offer up to children. We'll grill the bread on the first side, and then when we flip it over, we'll sprinkle on some chopped chocolate and let it melt right into the bread, while the second side toasts. From that point forward, it gets a little bit unusual, or maybe better said, unfamiliar, because we're going to drizzle on really good quality extra virgin olive oil and a little bit of salt. And there's something about the freshness and the vitality of olive oil that just makes chocolate come alive. It's really pretty special. So let's see how our bread is doing here on the grill. While we're waiting for this first side to brown, consider this, that if you had a favorite cannoli filling, you know, ricotta and dried fruit and chocolate and nuts, that tastes delicious spread onto grilled bread like this. Or even if you have a bowl of ripe peaches, take a little mascarpone cheese, scent it with vanilla, add some sugar, slather some of that on the grilled bread, and then slice those peaches, and it is absolutely delicious. All right, there's the first of our browning. And while the second side browns, let's just put a little bit of this chocolate on here. Now, I would say a grill like this that's cool enough that I can put my hand right over it is probably ideal for this. It may take a little bit of time for the bread to brown, but you can see the chocolate's doing exactly what it should. It's just beginning to melt. If the first side took 30 seconds to brown, then the second side probably will only take 20. The second side, because the bread is already hot, usually goes a little bit quicker. Almost there. If your fire is not quite hot enough to do the browning that you want, take a paper plate and just fan the embers a little bit. You can bring them back to life for one last hurrah, but I don't think we need to do that here. So let's take these from the grill and put them right on a plate for serving. I'll bring them over here, and then, as I said, a really fresh extra virgin olive oil. And don't be shy about it. You want to be able to taste it. And a little bit of good quality salt, Malden salt or fleur de sel, sea salt, is all you need. And there you have it. Just a simple little sweet to top off a really great grilled meal.